Right, and over to you, Sue. Thank you very much indeed.
Okie dokie. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am, as you can see, I am Sue Richards. Many of you already know me, but as Faye said, I'm from the South Devon Hub. I live down in rural Devon, about 2 miles from the beach. And today we are going to cover my framework, like the simple approach to ditching overwhelm for good. Simple, by the way, is not necessarily easy. So yes, it's going to be simple, but not necessarily as easy as you might hope, because there's going to be a little bit of work to do here in order to make this happen. And I will just caveat this slightly before we get into it. Talk about ditching overwhelm for good. Let's be honest, we're never going to get rid of it, right? But it's how we then manage it. So the overwhelm will creep in, but if we can eradicate it or move it on, more quickly than we currently do, then we're not going to sit in the overwhelm and we can move things forward and feel so much lighter and better about the decisions we're making. Because quite often when we're in overwhelm, we find it really, really, really hard to make appropriate, aligned, intentional choices. We just get into that like frazzled headspace where we can't do anything. And that's what I want to try and move you away from. So accepting that overwhelm will appear, but also having a toolbox that will enable you to move through it much quicker than you perhaps currently do. Okay, so a little bit about me, first of all, if I can get Canva to play. Oh, sorry, an intro, first of all. By the way, this is the first time I've run this session, so bear with me if there's any little hiccups along the way, but also any feedback would be fantastic as well. So we're going to talk about why we're focusing on overwhelm, which I've just touched on a little bit, but we'll talk just briefly about why we're looking at that. You probably already know, but I want to just touch on it anyway. And then we're going to set your sat nav, identify your roadblocks, go into some mindset moving, protect your energy, let it go. See, there might be some singing in here, Faye, and embrace the gains. So there's your simple framework already identified for you. Okay. Hopefully you can see that on screen. If we ignore the top bullet point, we're spelling out simple with the 6 steps we're going to go through. Okay. I love an acronym. I know some people don't, but I love an acronym. Okay, so me. I am a mum of 3 and an owner of a crazy cockapoo. I've got 3 older children, so I'm not deep in the depths of primary school or preschool. My youngest is 14, my eldest is 22. So I'm in a slightly different like season of life, as it were, to maybe some of you, but nevertheless, I get what it's like to be a mum running a business. I am a nature lover and an am-drammer. I couldn't think of what the appropriate grammar was there, so I just went with am-drammer, and that's me on the right-hand side there. That's me dressed as Mumbo Jumbo, the Cannibal Queen, for the 2024 panto that we did. And I'm passionate about helping mums in business avoid burnout so that they can find more time for their own needs and desires. So, not just the stuff you know you need to do to look after yourself, but the things you really want to do to be living life fully and from a place of fulfillment and joy. I'm a qualified personal trainer and nutritionist. I'm also a podcast host, speaker, and coach. I'm also an accountancy and tax tutor and a business owner who has hit burnout on more than one occasion. So I know what it's like to be in that pushing, hustling phase and realizing this isn't working. And just to touch on the picture on the screen, I love bouldering with my son and my husband and challenging my mind and my body on that colourful climbing wall. So that's just a little bit about me for those of you who don't already know me. As you can tell from this, I juggle 3 jobs. So I'm an accountancy and tax tutor. I'm a health and wellbeing coach, stroke freedom and success coach. I interchange between the two. And I also do some publishing work alongside my tutoring work. So you can see the juggle is here, and overwhelm could creep in regularly. It does creep in fairly often, but I use this framework to help keep it in check. So first off, why are we going to focus on overwhelm? Well, predominantly from my perspective, it's one of the symptoms that we all experience if we're heading towards burnout, particularly if overwhelm is a regular feature in your day-to-day, week-to-week. It probably means you may well be heading towards burnout. And we don't want to get to that point because that's a horrible, horrible, horrible place to be. When I say I've experienced burnout, I haven't experienced the true sense of it, because the true definition of full burnout is suicidal tendencies, severe depression. So what we know to be burnout is more of the high levels of exhaustion, having to put your business on hold for a period of time because you literally can't pull yourself out of like the depths to actually put anything into your business. And that's where I've been. I haven't been down the depth that like step number 10 or bottom of the scale where I've had suicidal thoughts. That's not where I've been, and I hope nobody has been there either. But many of us do experience that intense exhaustion, and lethargy and lack of motivation towards even the things we love the most. So overwhelm is one of the symptoms that takes you in that direction. It's also one of the things that I know from speaking with people like you is experienced by many, many mums in business, and is often seen as inevitable as a business owner and a mum who wants to be brilliant at both. And it doesn't need to be that way. I also want to talk about it, as I said, because I used to live in a state of constant overwhelm until I did the work and I started to implement this framework that I'm going to share with you today. So just a few reminders before we get into it. You have the power to change things that don't feel good. It is inside of you already. You don't need me really to go through this framework, but this might be some really good reminders and might give you some ideas to think about and prompts to think about to help you make that change. You are more in control than you might think. And you get to choose how you want to live your life and run your business. You always get to choose. You might not feel like it, and choices can be difficult, and choices can result in disappointment, but ultimately you get to choose. And you also get to choose that overwhelm does not need to be a regular feature in your life. And that's what we're going to obviously speak about today. So the first step, the S of simple, is you're going to set your sat nav, because like before you go on any journey, you need to set your sat nav. And that's what you need to do if you want to ditch the overwhelm. You need to know where you're going and why you're going there, because there'll be lots of things that get thrown at you that don't belong on your journey, that don't belong on the road that you are on. There could be forks in the road, and you get to choose which fork you're going to take, but you need to set that sat nav yourself and decide, does this fork take me where I want to go, or is it taking me away from where I want to go? So the first step is to visualize what you really, really want your life to look like. How do you want it to feel? How do you want your days to look? What sort of habits do you want to bring into your day-to-day life? There we go. What sort of structure or habits do you want to keep in your life? And in the same essence, what do you want to get rid of? What isn't serving you? It might be stuff you've been doing for some time because maybe you feel you should. Maybe your mate's doing it and it's worked really well for them. It doesn't actually work for you, but you're doing it anyway because something in the back of your brain's going, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. If it's not serving you, why are you still doing it? So what is no longer coming along for the ride? Okay, I said this was going to be interactive. Let me just check that comment quickly. Oop. What don't I do? Well, yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a crazy life. Oh, and we're in the middle of a 6-month building project as well. So, just a few things on my plate. Okay, so interactive. If you have a pen and paper to hand, I would love you to write an answer to this. If you don't, you can just do this in your head for now. I am going to share with you at the end a link to grab a workbook which covers everything we're covering today. So you can go through everything at your own pace. We're not going to have time today to get through everything at the depth that you would want to do it at, but you might have some ideas. So, what is your vision for your life? What do you want life to look like? What do you want it to feel like? And if you want to share any of this in the comments, that would be amazing, but please don't feel obliged to. I'm going to give you a minute or two just to jot some ideas down or to just mentally thought journal on it if you don't have pen and paper to hand. Oops. Oh, something in the chat. Let's have a look. Okay, Hazel. So I want you, not necessarily right now, but I want you to go a bit deeper on that. What does living comfortably really look like for you? Okay, you don't need to do that right now. Obviously, we're a bit, we're limited on time, but something to think about after the session. Emily wants her life to feel satisfying, fulfilling, fun, happy, and exciting. Lovely. So, Emily, I want you to think about is how you can make sure some of that comes into your day to day. Every single day, what can you bring in that either keeps you satisfied, fulfilled, fun, happy, or excited? Or if you can bring all of them in, even better. Fab. I'm going to move on. I will keep an eye on the chat though. So anybody that adds in as we go, I will pick up on that. So the next thing we're going to do is identify your roadblocks. So you've got your vision for your life and your business. I want you to now get to the bottom of what is really going on. What has stopped you from already achieving that vision? This is a tough question, right? And you're not probably going to be able to answer it right here, right now. So you might have some immediate thoughts, but there might be some deeper stuff going on that might come to you afterwards, which is why I'm sharing the workbook at the end so that you can then work through this at a slower pace. So what has stopped you already achieving your vision? What barriers or blocks are in your life, whether that's tangible or intangible, that are getting in your way? Maybe it's a lack of time. I hear this from so many people. I am, though, going to show you how to free up some time a little bit later in this framework. Maybe it's societal conditioning and expectations that either somebody else has put on you or you have put on yourself. So you may well have put expectations upon yourself based on what you think you should be doing. Maybe, this is deep, I know, maybe it's self-doubt or low self-worth. And I do see this a lot with the clients I work with. They don't necessarily recognize it initially, but often that feeling of needing to do stuff for other people comes from deep levels of self-doubt and low self-worth. So I'm putting that out there just as a sort of a planting a seed, I guess. So again, it's over to you just for a minute or two. What is holding you back from living the life you really want to be living? You need to be really honest with yourself here if you want to move things forward. Again, if anybody does want to share in the chat, please feel free to, but there is absolutely no obligation, particularly as this might bring up some stuff that perhaps you don't want to share. Okay, I'm just going to carry on just because of time. As I said, you're going to have the workbook afterwards, so if you want to dig into this deeper, you can. And I have put a few extra questions into the workbook just to sort of take it that little bit further if you feel you want to do that. Okay. So once we've identified those roadblocks, we need to get them out of the way, right? If we've got a vision for life and we've got stuff that's stopping us getting there, we need to get them out of the way. So we're going to have our mindset movers. So you want to reframe the blocks. And I know Carly talks about this. She spoke about something very similar on her Lunch and Learn a couple of months back. But you need to reframe those blocks. You need to start thinking of ways to literally kick those blocks out of the way. So I want you to go back to what you wrote just a moment ago in response to that previous question. What is holding you back from living the life you really want to be living? And think about how you can move each of those blocks out of your way. So I want a tangible solution to moving each of those blockers. Again, you have tangible blocks and intangible blocks, but you want tangible solutions to this. Maybe something springs to mind immediately. Maybe you need to journal on this further because you might be identifying stories, beliefs, and patterns that are holding you back. And those will need deeper, further work. They definitely will need time to process and reframe. It's not something we're going to be able to do right here, right now, but I know that by doing that, it will have a massive impact on how much overwhelm you feel and for how long. So just again, for a couple of minutes, how many ideas can you think of that will help you to move those blocks out of your way? The more ideas you have, the better, because you can pick and choose from that long list. You don't need to act on all of them right here, right now, but the more ideas you have, the more able you are to kick those blocks out of the way. And for this one, I'd really love it if you could share one idea in the chat panel, because your idea might prompt somebody else with an idea as well. So you don't need to share the specifics of the blocks, but you might have a solution that's slightly generic that might help somebody else think of ideas for themselves as well. So if you're happy to share something, that would be wonderful. Divorce. Okay. Well, I'm not quite sure what to say on that, Emily. I'm pleased you've put a laughing face emoji there because I'm assuming that is very much a joke, but I'm guessing from that that there's some tension in your relationship maybe that needs resolving. Surround yourself with people who boost your energy. Wonderful. Okay, I like that, Faye. Cool. Okay, let's keep moving on then. So speaking of energy, the P of energy of simple. So let's just go back a sec. We've done set your sat nav.
Stu, you've got another nice comment there from Charlotte. She says, I
Oh,
think I need
thank
to
you.
plan my time better. So a better timetable to actually stick to and stop me spending time on things I shouldn't be. I was going to
Okay.
say something similar as well, Charlotte. Actually, stay focused. I often try and do too much and then I can't do it all. Sorry,
And then we get frustrated with ourselves that we haven't done everything on our list. And then the perfectionist in us steps in and goes, you have failed today because you didn't do everything you set out to do. So yeah, that is definitely something that we need to think about, and that's going to fall really nicely into this next section actually. So we've set the sat nav, you've envisioned what you want your life to really look, and more importantly, what you want your life to feel like, because it's about those feelings ultimately, not just, shiny object syndrome. that we're interested in. You've identified what's stopping you getting there, and now you're starting to think about how you can move those things out of the way. Yeah, we don't have to do it all ourselves. You're absolutely right, Kelly, which is very apt from a VA, right? Um, but yeah, you're quite right. You don't have to do it all. So let's get on to protecting your energy. This is about protecting your energy and your time. But just to keep it short on the screen, I decided to stick with protecting your energy because I actually believe that if we can look after our energy, then the time happens anyway. I don't know if I know some of you would have been on Vicky Yaff's Lunch and Learn, and she talks about a completely different way of managing time. Um, I didn't agree with everything she was saying, I'm going to be completely honest. But I did agree with the fact that it's your energy that is more important than your time, because if you can keep your energy in check, you will get more done because you're feeling more energized. So, what boundaries have you placed on yourself and with others to make sure that your time and energy are being used intentionally and that your commitments, habits, and actions are all in alignment with your vision for life? So, thinking back to step one, setting the sat nav, that vision for life, what boundaries on your time and energy are in alignment with that vision and what are not in alignment with that vision? So, where are you saying yes when you actually want to say no? Now, this is not about being unkind. This is not about us purely putting ourselves first and forgetting about everybody else. This is about tuning into us and saying, actually, I keep saying yes to that person. There's no reciprocal energy exchange going on here. And I'm actually quite resentful of the fact that I'm saying yes to that person. And that's really zapping my energy and making me feel a bit shit. So it's those sorts of questions and situations we need to think about. So I know from my own experience, I used to be a yes girl. I wore that badge of honor of ask a busy person to get something done and they'll do it for you. I was that person. And I was like treasurer on the PTA, and I'd be at all the kids' school discos, and I'd be at the school fair manning a stall, and I'd be doing all the things. And I didn't really want to be doing them, in all honesty. But I was saying yes because nobody else was putting their hand up to it, and I felt obligated to be that person who said yes. And sometimes we have to say no. And actually, it's very empowering and a very strong thing. It's not a weakness to say no. It's a very strong message you're giving to people by saying no, particularly if you've got a really valid reason why you're saying no. You don't necessarily need to explain that to the person, but we are allowed to say no. And that goes for our loved ones as well. I'm not talking about just the school situation, but it goes for our loved ones too. Who are you spending time with that drains your energy? What are you spending your time doing that drains your energy? And what can you ditch, delegate, or delay to free up more time? There are always things on our to-do list that we think in our heads need to get done today or by us. And as Kelly pointed out, we don't need to do it all. And as Faye mentioned, we don't need to have it all on our to-do list. Who was it that mentioned about schedules? Was it Hazel? No, Charlotte. Yeah. So we need to get honest with ourselves here again, don't we? We need to think about, okay, is this matching my vision for life? Or is this actually something I'm doing just because I feel like I should be doing it? Or is it something I'm doing because I've always done it? Or is it something that actually I can do next week? It doesn't need to happen today. Or is it something that somebody else can do for me? There's lots of things we can do to change things up. Okay, so what or who is draining you and what or who energizes you? Bit of an energy audit. And I think, Carly, you spoke about this in your Lunch and Learn as well, but it bears repeating. Again, if you want to share anything in the chat, please feel free to, but again, do not feel obligated. Chanel says, when it's that time of the month, I limit the things I say yes to. I need to preserve my energy and mental health. I love that. Find it hard when friends organize an activity I don't want to do, but I don't want to look rude. Yes, it's hard, isn't it? It is hard, but equally, we can just say, I don't fancy that. I'll come for the next thing. It's not really my thing. Because the problem is if we start saying yes to the things we don't really want to be doing, they're going to expect that next time they organize that activity that you're going to go. So you're setting yourself up for failure immediately, aren't you? Because you're constantly like, oh shit, I said yes last time. Can't very well say no this time. Um, and I think, good friends, genuine friends would be like, okay, we respect that. That's not your thing. We'll do something different next time. Making time for the gym energizes me. Absolutely. My outlaws drain me, but my clients and fellow freelancers energize me. Love that. Okay. So I know it's really hard when it comes to family, but that's where we need to put our boundaries in place, isn't it? And decide for ourselves how much we are prepared to spend our time with those people that drain us. And I know I have family members that don't make me feel particularly comfortable. And so before I step into the room with those people, I sort of put a little like bubble around myself. I just imagine myself stepping into a bubble and reminding myself that I am me and they are them, and their opinions might be different to mine, and they might say things that I don't like to hear or make me feel uncomfortable or upset me. But ultimately, that's them and I'm me. And by having that bubble around me and just sort of going into myself a little bit, has really helped me to not take on all of their negative energy. Your kids drain you. Yeah, that's a difficult one, Kelly. Um, Particularly if they're with you a lot. Do you have a partner? Do you have a support network? Do you have family members who could have the kids for a period of time to give you a bit of space? Because there are potentially solutions to that. It's hard if they're with you all the time. I get that. I mean, when mine was small, they definitely drained me too. Listening to motivational podcasts and talks energizes Chanel. I like that. And Hazel says, I very rarely spend time near them now. Put boundaries back in place because it causes frictions. Yeah, yeah. So you know what your boundaries are, and it sounds like you've got a good structure in place there, Hazel, to make sure that you are being protected from that negativity that you might be feeling. Stresses of exams. Okay. So, having been through exam season three times with my kids. So, I said my eldest is 22. I've got one who's 20. Um, we stepped right back. We asked them what help they needed from us during their exams, and our eldest just said to us, I just need to be able to shout at you. I don't really want any other form of support. I just want to be able to come home and shout and let out my rage. And that's what we did. And we then, anything to do with like performance in exams, we just stepped back from it. It made life a lot more comfortable in our household. Um, Emily says, reading personal development books and exercise energizes her. Whole mental load of the house and kids drains you. Yes, mental load is huge, isn't it? So this is again, it's about going back to all this stuff we've just spoken about, right? What really matters, okay? What's in alignment with your vision for life? Because as we'll go through in the next step, there's going to be stuff you can let go of. You might not feel you can right now, but there will be stuff you can let go of. And that might reduce your mental load. I've got a whole podcast episode actually on mental load. I'll share the link to it into the mothership. For anybody who doesn't already know, I have a podcast. I mentioned it at the beginning, but all my episodes are short because they are for people like us who don't have an hour and a half to listen to a podcast. So they're 10 to 15 minutes long. So yeah, I've got one on mental load. I've got various ones that would be apt for this. So I'll drop the link in and you can go and have a listen. Mental load is a big one. We do carry a lot as mums. Yeah, absolutely. Which is where, asking for help is a good thing, right? Those of us that have partners, husbands and so on, let's utilize them. I find so often when I chat with people that um, we take it all on, but we never ask or say to our partners, could you do X, Y, or Z? And yet if we did, they go, yeah, no problem, no problem. But they don't know if we don't tell them. And communication is absolutely key in all of this, right? If we're not telling somebody how we feel or that we need help and we're feeling bogged down by everything that we're having to carry, then how the hell is somebody going to know they need to help us? So it's hard. We are strong, independent, ambitious women, all of us on this call. And it can be sometimes really, really hard to say, actually, I can't do this all on my own. But that's the strongest thing you can do is to say, I need your help. Um, and I've had to have those conversations with my husband. I've had to have quite, brutal, open and honest conversations. I don't have family. Both my parents are gone. But by having those conversations, James picks up the mantle a lot of the time now. But if we don't tell them we need that help, they can't do that. So don't worry about the typos, Emily. That's no problem at all. Absolutely perfect length for the walk home from school. Yes, exactly, exactly. Okay, let's carry on, shall we? Lots to chat about in there. And lots for you guys to think about. Why won't the chat close now? Hold on. No, don't do that. There, right, okay. So, as I said earlier, you are more in control than you think. Okay, take back the control, take back your power. Don't just like live in autopilot doing everything you've always done. People are there to help you, and particularly if people offer you help. And again, I was guilty of this and probably still am to some degree. People offer me help and I say no. Why? I mean, if we're dealing with overwhelm, we want to say yes to help, right? People are offering us help because they genuinely want to help. And if we push them away and say, no, we don't need the help, they're not gonna offer it again in the future. So accept the help, ask for the help, and remember you are more in control than you might think. So do I sing? Do I sing? Do you guys sing? We're gonna let it go, let it go. That probably wasn't even in tune, but hey, we do it. So this is the toughest bit, right? You've done the journaling work, you've done the mindset work, or at least you will have done when you've gone through this more slowly with the workbook. Now it's time to take some action. It's time to let go of some stuff. Because if you want to feel like time is actually on your side and to start living a calmer, more peaceful, less overwhelmed, and less stressed life, you simply can't continue doing all the things you're currently doing. What's that old Einstein quote that's labeled to Einstein? Insanity is the measure of doing the same thing and expecting different results, or something along those lines. Okay, if we keep doing what we keep doing, we're going to keep feeling what we keep feeling. So we have to let some stuff go. This might feel hard. This will feel hard, but doesn't feeling overwhelmed and constantly juggling everything, doesn't that also feel hard? So you get to choose which hard do you want? Do you want to make some hard decisions and let some stuff go? Or do you want to stay feeling overwhelmed, stressed, constantly juggling stuff? That's the choice, right? If you want a life to feel easier, you need to make some short-term hard choices to make that happen. So what is on your to-do list that doesn't need to be there? And what's on there that could wait or be done by somebody else? Have a little ponder on that one. Yeah, I promised singing, Hazel. I'm hoping it wasn't quite as bad as the lady in the estate agent, but maybe it was. It was only 6 words. Anybody got anything they want to share on this? Yeah, yeah, Amdram. Although I have only had two solos so far, but they were quite daunting, having not done anything on stage since primary school to then be doing solos on stage last year was quite something. Okay, I'm going to keep moving on, but this is something to think about, right? As I said, not easy, but it can be done. So, everything in your life and your business costs you time, energy, or money. You get to choose which things you do, which things you pay someone to do, and which things get ditched so that you can free up time, have more energy, and ditch the overwhelm. You do get to choose. You might not feel like it right now, but you get to choose what's on that to-do list because you are running your own business and it is your life. Nobody is um, adding things onto your list other than you at the end of the day. So this is worth pondering on, isn't it? Time, energy, or money? Yeah, exactly, Carly. So delegating the daughter's birthday present. Yeah, I do quite a lot of that. Specific jobs being delegated. It works brilliantly. My only slight issue is I quite often, like, my husband has offered to do Christmas stockings a number of times in the past. But the problem is we get to the 1st of December and nothing's happened. And by about the 8th of December, I'm like, "Eh, I need to step in because for my own peace of mind, I'm like, you haven't done anything. And, time is ticking on. So, yeah, I think we have to have that conversation, but also have some boundaries in it too. Otherwise, you can still end up feeling like you're still micromanaging it slightly, which is not a great situation to be in. Okay. Final step, embrace the gains. Okay. So embracing the stuff you're letting go of, not because you're letting go of it, but because you are gaining something by letting go of it. So rather than focus on what you're losing, it's time to focus on what you're gaining by allowing things to leave your life. More time, more freedom, more fulfillment, more joy, more ease, more peace, more calm, more presence with your loved ones, more patience. What else can you think of? More energy. Yeah. So this isn't about letting go of stuff for the sake of letting go of stuff. This is about letting go of stuff because actually it's going to give you so much more than you were getting from the thing in the first place. There will be stuff that we can't let go of, but there is stuff you can let go of. More headspace. Love that, Jamie. More clarity from Carly. Yeah, love that too. So when I work with my clients, quite often when we're doing any habit change work, they focus on the challenge that comes with changing the habit. And they focus on how difficult that is. And they focus on the losing of something. So let's say they're trying to go to bed a bit earlier because they know that they're not getting to bed as early as they'd like. And they're waking up feeling a bit, well, not alert. They're feeling fatigued before they've even started the day. And they know that then that has a knock-on effect on their decision-making processes in everything. So whether that's business, eating, exercise, um, managing their diary, anything at all, any decisions when we're doing it from a place of exhaustion and fatigue are never going to be as sound as they are when we've had a really good night's sleep and we're feeling energized. So rather than thinking, well, I'm losing that hour of watching my favorite TV show, what they think about is, or I encourage them to think about, is the gain of all the energy they're going to feel when they wake up the following morning, feeling so much more alert, awake, energized, and raring to go. And then also the knock-on effect throughout their day of how much more they're going to get done because they're feeling so much more alert, energized, and ready to go. Okay, so it's that side of things that you want to focus on rather than what you're losing. So write down all the things you will gain by letting go of things, by making different choices, by solidifying your boundaries around your time and energy, and by embracing missing out. This comes back to your point, Faye, about doing stuff with your friends that aren't actually things you want to be doing. So embracing the missing out, the JOMO, joy of missing out, and allowing imperfection in your life. Because at the end of the day, you can't do everything perfectly and not feel swamped. So we have to allow a little bit of an imperfection in here to also allow us to feel more energized, more joyful, more clarity, more peace and ease, and so on. Okay, I won't spend too much on this because we've already touched on it already. Okay, so as I said, it's simple, but it's not easy. That's me as Mrs. Hedgehog, by the way, top left. I loved playing her. Well, her and Mumbo Jumbo were amazing characters. Mumbo Jumbo was, well, as I said, she was a cannibal queen, so she was feisty, staring people in the eyes in the audience. And I apparently my eldest daughter came to see, well, they all came to see it. The eldest daughter said I was quite frightening. So I think I pulled off being a cannibal queen quite well with that feedback. Whereas Mrs. Hedgehog, she was very scared to cross the road, bless her, because roads and hedgehogs don't mix very well. And yeah, that's just me being a bit stupid at a Christmas party because, joy is part of my being. So, as I said, it's simple, not easy, right? All of this stuff we've spoken about is not easy stuff, but you can do all of it. And every single step is simple in and of itself. It just might take a little bit of deep breathing, a little bit of deep work, a little bit of being honest with ourselves, a little bit of asking for help, a little bit of communicating with people, and being honest with other people too. Like Faye was saying, being invited to events she doesn't really want to go to. Sometimes we just have to be a bit honest and say, that sounds great for you guys, but it's not for me. But I'll be with you for the next thing. Okay. Boundaries around your time and energy. So just as a reminder, we've set your sat nav, you've identified your roadblocks, or you will identify your roadblocks. You've then moved them out of the way with some mindset reframes, protecting your energy, your boundaries, your time. You're letting it go and you're embracing the gains. Now, as I said, this is not stuff you can do in, what have we done, 46 minutes. You're not going to do all of this work in 46 minutes, but hopefully it gives you an idea of the work you can do to get you to ditch the overwhelm, or at least manage the overwhelm in a much more, in a way where it, as I said earlier, you move through it so much more quickly. So there is a QR code on the screen there if you want to grab the workbook. It will put you onto my email list. You are obviously, once you've got the workbook, very welcome to then unsubscribe from my email list. I won't be sending you a nurture sequence with this particular QR code because you're overwhelmed enough. You don't need a nurture sequence from me. We've just spent all this time together and we know each other from the freelance mum community anyway. So you don't need me to send you a nurture sequence. But I do send out typically 2 emails a week, one with a link to the current week's podcast episode and a second email which is on something. So today's email was all about um, coming back from holiday with the family and needing a day to reset myself, and the importance of managing energy by giving myself that time and that space to just recalibrate and reset for the week ahead. What I didn't know when I wrote that email was that I'd end up spending all of yesterday in bed feeling unwell, but we go with it. Um, so yeah, as I said, it will put you on my email list, but you can unsubscribe at any time. So please don't feel you need to stick around. If you want to take things a little bit deeper and you're interested in actually working on this with some support, then this is my Simplify program. It's going to launch in July. Um, it is also mentioned in the workbook. So if you don't want to click on this now and then later on you feel you are interested, then the link is in the workbook too. But I just thought I'd touch on it here and now in case you are interested. It's a hybrid program. There'll be some self-led content, group work, and also one-to-one support as well. I'm a big fan of one-to-one tailored deep support. So if anybody's interested in that, I will be doing beta places on this when I launch it in July. So, if you want to get in on the lower price, then you're very welcome to do that. Otherwise, just come and hang out with me somewhere on the socials. I've got a brand new website that I launched, about a month ago? God, was it that long ago? Maybe not that long ago. But there's a new website there you can go and check out, and all the information is on there too. But yeah, what I'll leave you with is that workshop QR code actually, because that's probably what people are most keen on grabbing. And if anybody's got any questions, I am more than happy to answer anything.